Today is the start of the weekend here in Washington, D.C. and it's time to try and get to know this neighborhood a little better. We've been just walking around and I noticed just beyond this huge trash container, this beautiful building which is actually an Apple store now. We'll check out the Apple store another day, but for now we are walking around in the general neighborhood, and this neighborhood is called Mount Vernon Square or even Triangle. These two neighborhoods are actually kind of next to each other, and at least from the little bit of research that I did, looks like there's also some confusion about which one's which. That's the Triangle, if I got my things right. And just behind me is Mount Vernon Square. So the name Vernon, it actually comes from the name of a British general, and it also was the name of the house in which George Washington lived. He was, of course, the first president of this country. I'm walking away from the Mount Vernon Square and Triangle and walking south into this neighborhood which, from those murals you might figure out, is actually the Chinatown neighborhood of Washington, D.C. and super close to the hotel where I'm living right now. One of the good things about this neighborhood and also about this city, Washington, D.C., is that all the museums here are free. And I decided, because it's a little too bright and hot outside, that why not just get into one of those. And this one is the Smithsonian Museum of American Art. Right now I'm inside this beautiful courtyard that's in the middle of the museum. Of course, this is just a pit stop. I don't plan to explore the museum right now. It's almost as if that board and that sign is for me and for you. Description of this section. This is about the 1930s when the Great Depression was ongoing, yet the government funded a lot of this art. Here we are looking at the street parking in DC. This is one more street and neighborhood that we're just familiarizing ourselves with. This one's called Penn Quarter, and I'm hungry. This is an Indian place and I've been craving some Indian food, so I thought for the weekend, why not?
That one's the regular one that goes with it, right? Yeah. Can I do that and just, I'll just keep this.
The nostalgic Indian scooter on the walls. I think that's the Bajaj Priya. We are walking again after a nice and filling lunch. And this beautiful building that we are looking at is yet another museum. This is called the National Building Museum. But this one has the most fascinating stories of, I think, all the museums in Washington, D.C. So while we'll not really go inside the National Building Museum for now, we'll do that another day, what we can do is we can walk and talk about this building. So this one is actually one of the oldest museum buildings in DC. I think it's the oldest. It was built in the late 1800s, and this was originally a pension office, or the pension building, which was later converted into this museum that we see. This museum is actually supposed to be really beautiful from inside. But as I said, we'll reserve this for another day. Just some street side views here in DC. This is like the National Police Officers Memorial, but of course in the background you can still see the building. So I believe this memorial is for the fallen officers who died in the line of duty. There you go, our beautiful red building, the National Building Museum again. And believe it or not, inside this building, even the presidential balls after the presidential inauguration used to happen. The sudden change of cities from New Delhi to Washington, D.C., it's of course been very difficult, but I feel right now is the moment when I'm kind of liking this city a little bit, or at least starting to like it. Maybe it's something about this nice and bright and beautiful afternoon in the city. becoming a little familiar with these streets as well. But they're still so different from the bustling and energetic cities that you see back in Delhi. I've been walking mostly randomly on these streets. Of course, I looked at a few things on the map. Wow, look at those pretty houses. Love the colors, almost did not notice as I was speaking. But yeah, I did just a little bit of research on the map, and then I thought I'll just keep walking and try to randomly explore things that I come across. This is still generally the neighborhood in which I'm staying in Washington, DC. And look at these houses, they're so different from the houses that we would see, for instance, in India. Especially these protruding windows, they're called bay windows. We rarely see these back in Delhi. That's another bay window, the one that you see just to the left of the bougainvillea. And this design, as I mentioned, you rarely see this in India. It's something that started in Europe and looks like it became very popular here in US as well. Of course, these supersized cars is one more thing that you don't really see in any other country besides US. So I've stumbled across this interesting looking cafe. It was just on the same street that I was walking earlier, the first street. Looks like a decent find. I missed mentioning the neighborhood that I was walking through, so I think this one at least, this is called Shaw, and it's a very historic neighborhood of Washington, DC. Looks like I'm becoming a little more familiar with this city, and also, as I mentioned earlier, starting to like this a little bit. But still, all this is extremely foreign to me. The weather seems to have suddenly turned almost torrential. In fact, I got all these notifications on my phone that I should be staying indoors and staying safe. So far, so good, but looks like I'll soon see my first rainfall in Washington, DC. And honestly, it's getting quite dark even though it's still afternoon, so this is interesting. Wow. I don't think I've ever seen it rain like this. I mean, I almost see the rainfall is blowing with the wind. That's quite something. Oh my God. Wow. You don't want to be on the street in this weather. This is crazy. Wow. Oh my God. You would not even want to be in a car in this weather. This is, I mean, wow. I don't have words to describe this. It's almost scary. scary inside, and I don't know how people who are outside would be feeling. Wow, what is happening? Oh my god, I hope this bay window stays intact. Crazy. It's still happening. I'm glad I am indoors now. I mean, just like a couple of hours ago, I was walking and it was all sunny. And look at it now. I mean, is this like a tornado or something? I don't know. I just did not, I guess, check the news enough. But thank God I, excuse me, got that notification which said that I should like stay indoors, and I can see now why. Wow, what have I seen? This is quite something. Settling down a little bit, but you can see there's a little bit of waterlogging, and I can see why. I mean, there's no way you can plan for what we saw earlier. That was just crazy rains, and it's still raining. Look at that water. This is the same day, just later in the afternoon or in the evening, and it has all cleared up. I'm still in the vicinity. And even the sun is out now. Wow. The weathers that we've seen over the last like 3-4 hours, it's crazy. Pretty houses there though. They still have those iconic windows of this neighborhood, I guess, the Shaw neighborhood. The bay windows, the airy windows that let the light come in as well. And I was also thinking a little bit about what just happened earlier, the crazy rains. So it's interesting to think how back in India, because I guess it's a hot country, you tend to enjoy the rains, whereas here almost everyone just hates the rains. I cannot believe the sun is still out after what we saw earlier. So yeah, I guess even though I still have mixed feelings about this city, I'm somewhat trying to settle down, and I guess I'll catch you again soon.